Hello everyone, this is Imad from iMad IT, and in this video I'll be telling you why macOS is better than Windows. Of course, better is a subjective word, but still overall, at the time of making this video, Windows is still worse than macOS. Before I start, I just want to say the following note. If you're forced to use Windows or Mac for some reason, that doesn't mean that one operating system is better than the other. For example, you're an iOS developer who makes iOS games. Then you must use a Mac. That doesn't mean Mac is better. Or you play games. Then of course you have to use Windows. But that also doesn't mean that Windows is better as an operating system. Alright, now that I got that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Price and quality. This is something that almost everybody gets wrong. So I want to make it clear once and for all. See, macOS software updates are free. In fact, macOS as an operating system is entirely free, where Windows 10 Home costs $120 and Windows 10 Pro costs $200. It is also recommended to get an antivirus or an anti-malware, unless you're a careful user. You also need Office, cause who doesn't? And that costs $80 a year, or up to $500 as a one-time purchase. Let me give one more example, and that is video editing. Let's say you want to make a birthday video for someone, or just edit a small video. On Windows, you can't do that without suffering with trial software or buying something. I hope it's clear to you by now that everything I just mentioned has a free alternative on Mac. But wait, MacBooks are so expensive, so of course the software is free. See, just like many Windows users, I used to think that MacBooks were overpriced. So when I went to buy my first laptop, I bought a cheap Windows laptop that has similar spec to a MacBook but was Windows, thinking I made a good deal. Of course, after a year or so, I couldn't use it anymore. I had Wi-Fi connectivity issues, my drivers weren't working when Windows 10 came out, and so I decided to sell the laptop. But then I realized that the resale value was very low, that I had practically thrown away all the money I paid for it. And so when I did my research and looked up online, I realized that if you want a good Windows laptop, it's gonna be pretty expensive. And so I thought to myself, why buy an expensive Windows laptop, where for the same price or maybe a little bit more, you can get a MacBook? Make sure to check my other YouTube video about a 5-year-old MacBook Pro review. As a recap, you can see that Mac is actually cheaper than Windows as an operating system. And if you still disagree, feel free to leave a comment and I'll make sure to respond. The software. My biggest issue with Windows is how confusing and inconsistent it is. Microsoft keeps on making wrong decisions, like having 2 built-in web browsers instead of dropping one of them. Or the moment you want to add another keyboard language and realize that you have 2 settings apps, namely Control Panel and the Setting app. Of course, you also get stuff like the command prompt and PowerShell, and the list goes on. While macOS is more uniform, it also comes in with a good amount of built-in apps. For example, when you buy a Windows laptop, you won't be able to open a PowerPoint presentation from your professor from university, for example, while on Mac you can obviously do that, and of course for free. I think it's very important for an operating system to provide those core features that any consumer would need without having to pay or search for other software. And that's where I think Microsoft fails miserably. And unlike Internet Explorer, you can actually uninstall these programs so you're not restricted to using them or have them waste your storage. Of course, macOS comes with a lot of other useful apps like the Automator app and the Console app. If you want me to talk about all built-in macOS apps, please let me know in the comment section and I'll make a video about it. Most of the time, installing an app is as simple as dragging it to the applications folder. Similarly, uninstalling the app is also as simple as dragging that app to the trash can. Of course, advanced users will do things differently, but I won't be covering that in this video. I quickly want to mention the trackpad. Though this is a hardware piece, all the magic happens in the software. If you've ever used a Mac trackpad, you'll know how much better it is than on Windows. Accessibility. For people with accessibility needs, macOS just works better. I'm a person who has a bad eyesight, and I use Zoom all the time. You don't need to launch a magnifier app. The accessibility is built in the OS. Ergonomics. If you use your computer more than 3 or 4 hours every day, then this section is actually very important that nobody takes seriously enough. On Windows, using the Control key to run the hotkeys like copy, paste, find, refresh, and so on are less healthy for your hand, and your pinky especially, than it is on Mac where you use Command with your thumb, and your hand is in a much more comfortable position. And of course we get the iOS integration. This section is almost inexistent in Windows, so I'll just mention the macOS features. First of all, my phone appears as a hotspot, even if it's turned off on my phone. Anyway, if you connect to a new Wi-Fi network, for example, you can see that you can immediately share your Wi-Fi password between your Macs or iPhones. Of course, it doesn't stop here. For example, you can open the Notes app and having it appear on your MacBook, or for example, copy a text from your phone and pasting it on your MacBook, and so on. I can already see the thumbs down, but you know what? Screw it. Windows is horrible. Enforcing software updates before you have to leave work. You wanna shut down your computer before you leave work? No, you can't. Seriously, the only upside would be group policies for enterprise companies. macOS is just much better for advanced and pro users. First of all, it's Unix based, and most of it is open source, so it's more customizable than Windows is. Yes, I said it. Here's a list of features that compares Windows and macOS from a professional/advanced perspective. You could pause the video and take a better look, but I hope that you get the general idea that I'm trying to get through, that macOS is kind of better than Windows, at least in my opinion. And of course, if you have another opinion, leave it in the comment section and I'll make sure to reply. Feel free to like or dislike, and maybe subscribe. This is Imad and these were my thoughts. What do you think?